I'm Richard Randall, and welcome back to The Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or to sell real estate. It is, after all, your biggest investment. You want to be careful about who you deal with and what they know about this market and the volatility and all of the various changes. That is Barb Schlinker, the one person I would trust, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb, I know that not every contract sale goes through. What are the top reasons why some of these pending sales might fail?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, and it's never a good experience for the customer when this happens. I've had them fall out because the lender really didn't do their homework up front on the type of property. It didn't meet the loan guidelines. And then they waited to the very end to go, oh, sorry, I can't do this. Sorry, have a nice day, which is terrible. I've had buyers that just change their mind. I've had buyers that just like want a guarantee that this 50-year-old house is going to be perfect. And if they don't get that, then they walk away. And then they call our office and complain that they really wanted that house. I'm like, well, you terminated it. The seller said they're going to fix it. And you asked for something more. And they said no. And it's crazy right now. And I think there's a lot of fear right now in the market. And so some people are not as certain when they tie up a home for sale. So I want them to be sure that they want the house. The good news is when deals fall apart, it really doesn't happen very often. It kind of concerns me because when a house goes under contract per the MLS rules, we have to put it in the MLS that shows that it's under contract. Well, if we show it back on the market, the automatic assumption for everybody else is that there's something wrong with the house, not the buyer.
Right.
And so I have to answer those questions. Well, why did the deal fall out? What's going on? I have to tell the story, which could be good and could be bad. But typically, if the deal is going to fall apart, it happens early on in the process. I've had buyers that said, hey, I'll take it as is. They put it in their contract that they'll take it as is. And then they ask for 8 or 10 inspection items. I'm like, wait a minute, what part of in your contract as is don't you understand? And then, it's hard for me to have to explain subsequently to a deal falling out when many times it has nothing to do with the house. Sometimes the buyers just change their mind. Sometimes the buyers, financially decide it's a little bit too much of them. They have all kinds of outs in a contract. The buyer can walk away for 10 different reasons in our state of Colorado contracts. They can walk away because they don't like the color of paint. They can walk away because they don't like the inspection. They can walk away if they don't like the loan. They can walk away if they don't like title. They can walk away if it doesn't appraise at the agreed upon sales price and they're unwilling to make up the difference. So, and what makes it even worse is the way that state contracts are written. It really, no matter what happens, unless it's specified in writing, the earnest money becomes 100% refundable to the buyer. So we've had to learn the hard way, and people walk away at the last minute like that, we got to make sure we put something in our contract where they don't get a bonus for tying up our property and hurting its values. Home inspections are probably the most common reason. And typically that happens early on in the process within the first week. Getting a pre-inspection is probably not a bad idea if you're a home seller, especially if you're really concerned about it. Like if the home has a lot of deferred maintenance issues and you haven't really checked some of the systems out. But, we have vendors that will come out and do a roof inspection for free. That's probably the most common thing that comes up on inspection. And the other thing I would check out would be the sewer line or septic line, because those can be a very big ticket item that once you're under contract, the buyer and seller typically aren't real comfortable with negotiating those kind of issues. Or sometimes they'll ask for a financial credit. Other things that get hit are the Federal Pacific electrical boxes. They're considered to be a fire hazard. So many times the buyers will ask for those to be replaced. But we've gotten everything done. And I think it becomes a point of stress for the seller if there are repair requests during the process, just because they're like, oh my God, I'm in the middle of moving and I have to deal with that as well. But really they don't. We just have to reach agreement on what's going to happen. We can get a bid for the repair. We can have the bid actually paid out of the closing and let the buyer deal with the repair afterwards. So we can make it really easy for the sellers, but they get, it's such a stressful time that everything kind of puts them on edge. Low appraisals. We just had an appraisal come in low. Fortunately, the buyer offered an appraisal guarantee, so it's not going to affect the seller. But of course, the agent wants us involved in helping them justify their appraisal. So we gave them a little bit of help and we hope it works out, but nothing we can do about that. And really, the appraiser's job is to put a value on the property and verify that the home meets the loan guidelines. So for a conventional loan, usually there's not too many issues unless there's some kind of safety or trip hazard around the house. But for the FHA or VA loans, there are some condition issues that the appraiser will require. They require any peeling paint to be addressed regardless of the home's age. If there are big, deep window wells that don't have a cover on them, that sometimes the appraisers think those are safety issue and they will ask for those to be addressed. But what's interesting in the contract is it does not say that the seller has to fix it. It just says the buyer has to tell you. You could still negotiate those issues. And that's part of what we do for our clients. And most often, both inspections and appraisals are a point of negotiation between the buyer and seller. I consider myself an expert on that. And because I've been doing business, lots of business for over 25 years. And if you want to find out how to hire the right agent that knows how to negotiate to make sure your deal goes through, give us a call at 719-301-3900. Richard?
You're listening to The Real Estate Voice. I'm Richard Randall. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can always reach Barb at 719-301-3900. And we're talking about why some pending sales just fall through. Barb, how often do home buyers get their loans denied?
Actually, that's less common than you would think. Most of the time, first of all, we have a process in place where we're making sure that we've had a conversation with the lender before we have our sellers committed to that contract. Because the way the contracts are designed, if you accept a contract, okay, and then you find out later that the buyer didn't tell you they had a house to sell, something that's kind of an important fact that you should know, there's no way out for the seller. Did you know that, Richard?
No, I did not. And
there's no
that
way
is crucial. My goodness.
Right. And that happened to me recently, and I was really surprised. When I just so happened, I'm like, I have to do my due diligence for my client because I promised I would do that. So I called the lender, asked him some very pointed questions. And really my initial question was, I was wondering if they had down payment assistance. Not that it's a problem. It's just that sometimes it requires a multi-level of underwriting process. So I've had deals fall out or have underwriting issues at the very end of the sale. So that's why I was asking the question. And I said, hey, are they getting down payment assistance? And the lender's like, no, but they have to sell a house. I'm like, oh, okay. He goes, but I'm sure it's already sold. I'm sure it's not a problem. And I'm like, oh, really? What's the address? So of course, I'm looking up the address on the MLS. It had gone on the market that day. So the buyer's agent, when they sent the contract, did not put in their contract that it was contingent on that buyer selling a home before they could get a loan.
Not cool.
And you know what? If the seller had gone under contract with that buyer, there would be no way for the seller to back out based on that reason. So that's the problem I see with the contracts. There's a couple of little gotchas in there. So we promise our clients we're going to do a lot of due diligence up front, so we don't have to worry about those things. Ask very pointed questions. I remember once we had a bunch of offers on this one property, and we asked this lender, so we asked them some of our due diligence questions, and I said, well, have you have you checked? Have you seen their pay statements? Have you seen their tax returns? Have they been approved through underwriting? And her answer was, well, we're 50% there. I'm like, okay,
Not good enough.
you're not ready. Thank you. Next, So not every agent does that. They just trust the paper letter that they get and call that good to go. But we're not getting the whole story. And I actually had that lender that didn't put in their very detailed letter that this buyer had a house to sell before they could perform. I asked him that specific question. Why didn't you put that in your letter? And he goes, oh, we never do that. We just tell the buyer's agent that they have to sell the house first, and they do what they do.
Barb, this is why you cannot do this on your own. I mean, you can technically try to do this on your own. And as you were saying, a lot of millennials think they don't need someone like you, but I think people need someone like you because you have got the experience. You've seen these things and you're equipped to deal with them. I just can't imagine doing this sort of thing on my own. And all of a sudden, some of these things pop up.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have to just pay attention to what's going on. If we don't, then I'm not doing my job advocating for my client, because what the seller wants when they sell a home is to make sure once we accept a contract, okay, we're planning a move. That's another big project. There's a lot of scheduling that takes place. I got to pack things up. The house is no longer going to look show ready. That's a huge project for people, and they don't want anything to disrupt that. And so we want to make sure that we don't have failure at the end. It does happen once in a while. It's uncommon. But sometimes it's just a simple delay, which is no big deal. We can accommodate that. But, you want to make sure you have an agent that's really watching out for you. But some of the things that buyers do that are kind of crazy is maybe they think that, okay, it's now that I have a contract on my new house, it's okay for me to go out and borrow $5,000, no payments for 6 months at American Furniture Warehouse, so I can furnish my new home. But the problem is those kind of loan programs show up on your credit as if you owe that much money every month. So it could derail your qualification. So we always tell buyers, don't buy anything unusual other than your normal just consuming until after closing. Then you can go buy all the furniture you want, all the appliances you want, buy a new car, doesn't matter. Once your loan is closed, it's over. And we absolutely have solutions for home buyers with a house to sell. We have cash investors that can buy homes. We can make this work. So give us a call. If you have a house to sell, we've got lots of solutions for you at 719-301-3900. And we'd love to help you out. Richard?
You're listening to the Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Give her a call, 719-301-3900, or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. When we come back, we're going to be discussing the top 5 seller mistakes that can cause a home not to sell. Plus, we'll be talking about one of Barb's favorite subjects, her hot new listing. Stay tuned for that.